guys, it's Shelly here. Welcome to my channel and thank you for joining me today. In front of me here I have a page that I'm actually working on as a color along for the channel, and I thought I'd come on here to make it a little bit easier for me to share with you how I color my bees. Basically, I think it's a bit harder in my color alongs because they're already so long to go into too much detail on some of the methods that I use for certain elements on a page. And I thought, because there's actually a hashtag, a color along hashtag on Instagram, I don't think I'll remember the hashtag. If I remember to put it, I'll put it in the description box below or up on the screen. But there is a bee hashtag. So I thought it would be a great time to just share with you guys how I color bees, and I'm doing it with just pencils, and I am trying to make them look a little bit realistic. I can't do hyper realistic, but yeah, I'm not trying to make them look cartoony. I am trying to put in a little bit of effort in making them look slightly more realistic. So I thought I'd come on here and just share it with you guys in a little bit more detail, especially for those who are going to be following the color along. And I haven't gone much into detail in the color along about the bee. You can always come on here and have a look at this video. So I'll be doing the how I color video, how I color bees, in the Mythographic Wild Summer book by Joseph Catimbang. I'm really enjoying coloring this page, but I did not realize how much of a challenge it was going to be. So I am taking my sweet time, and it is taking me a while to finish. But anyways, let's get going. And I'm going to show you how I color my bees, mainly on this page, for that bee there. Okay guys, as you can see, I've decided from my other bees on the page that I've decided to go for conventional colors for my bee. All right, and so that's black and yellow. And I like to start with the back part of my bee for some reason, because I like to make that last bit black. I'm not sure why, that's just me, but whatever you guys prefer, you can do it in whatever sequence that you like. You can obviously use a reference picture to figure out where you want to put the colors, but basically I'm keeping it simple. There's already so much detail on this page, and I've decided to go for the black for this segment at the back of the bee to be black. All right, now I'm just going to base it. I like basing my animals and insects and a lot of things actually. I like to base it so that the whites of the paper is covered up. So I'm using a warm gray one to sort of just cover up ever so slightly. I'm using very light pressure just to cover up the whites of the paper. I'll do another segment as well with black. And when I'm basing, I'm going back and forth, not circular motions, because we want to make it fur-like texture or hairs. I don't know what you would call a bee's fuzziness, but basically I'm going in the lines in the direction that my fur or hairs are going to be in. Okay, so back and forth, not circular. All right, I'm not pressing hard at all. Now the good thing with Joseph Catimbang's page, especially this page, I've not obviously looked through all the pages, but a lot of his pages will have texture to them, so you sort of know for the animals, you'll sort of know which direction the fur should go in. So here you can very lightly see some line strokes with his line art, and you can use that to your advantage to know which direction the fur is going to be in. Okay, then I'm going to do another base. Now with my blacks, whatever I'm coloring black on a page, I will never use black because it looks too flat. So what I like to do is layer it up with different colors, and I usually like to use a blue base to layer up and give a little bit of depth, a little bit of interest to my black areas. Because if you just use black and just go straight in with black, it will look too flat, and it won't give you the texture that you want for fur. All right, so I've just based with a blue, just to, like I said, give a little bit of interest, to give a bit of a cool tone to my blues, to my blacks. All right. Then in the case of a bee, sometimes you will see a very dark brown to them. So I decided that I was going to use a walnut brown to start doing my first strokes now. So I know it's not fair, but we're going to be doing strokes to make it look fuzzy. because I want to make it look realistic, okay? So when I come in with my dark brown, I'm basically going to be trying to make my own black with different colors without having to use just black. So I'm using a dark brown, which is a walnut brown. And I'm sort of doing a little bit of shading back and forth again, no circular motions, in the direction of the fur that Joseph Catimbang has sort of drawn in. And I'm also doing strokes, okay? I'm going to leave some areas a little bit with the base that we've put in. I know it's blue, but don't worry, it won't look blue at the end. It probably doesn't even show up much. I'm just trying to see if I can put this anywhere else. Let's just hold it there. Hopefully you guys can see that. Oh, it's going to cast a shadow. So I'm leaving some areas without any brown in it, or very light brown in it, because I want some variation in dark areas and light areas. Now, if you look at bees or paintings of bees, you'll see that the dark areas on the bee are usually at the junction between the two colors. So this segment here is going to be yellow, and usually you'll see a dark area on either side of the band of yellow. And so it's nice to put a highlight, and you can sort of see it with the strokes again that Joseph Catimbang has put, that he's not put many strokes in the center of that band, but there's a bit more strokes there, line art, strokes of his pen, and strokes here, which sort of show you where the darker areas will be. So I'm sort of, again, using that to my advantage. So I'm making the edges of the segment darker. So the top and the bottom of the segment, where it'll transition to the next color. And I'm leaving some highlight areas sort of in the middle of the segment. Hopefully that makes sense. We're going to have a shadow cast by our wing, so you can make that area a bit darker as well. And it's going to get darker when I come in with my next color. So I'm still using sort of a combination of back and forth shading. And first strokes. First strokes because we want it to look a little bit realistic. So we want to see those individual strokes. We want to see the texture of the bee. We want to make it look fuzzy, like the big fat bees as usually are in nature. There we go. Okay, so I've laid down my walnut brown. Now, to make my black, I'm going to go in with a blue, the darkened. Sorry guys, I seem to have run out of space on my phone, which is strange because I just deleted loads of videos and pictures before starting this video. But anyways, what I was saying is I'm going in with the dark indigo, and this over the walnut brown is going to help us make our black. So we're not using a black, we're trying to create it. I love this dark indigo. I use it a lot for my shadows, and I just really like this color. And I'm just going in with first strokes. All right, just over the walnut brown, because we want to try and create that black effect now, leaving certain areas that we'd sort of left without much brown as well, so that we can bring in some variation in the color on the bee. Definitely putting a larger number of strokes sort of at the junction of the bands of color, because this will be the areas which are the darkest. So you put more strokes to give a darker effect, and fewer strokes in areas that you want lighter, for example. All right, I'm going to go back in, and now I like to do this. I just sort of go back in again with my brown. I'm not using water at all for these, and I forgot to mention at the beginning of the video, I'm using my Albrecht Dürer pencils, of course, but I'm using them dry. So for those of you who don't have Albrecht Dürers, are using Polychromos, you can always follow along with the same colors, or use a conversion chart if you're using different pencils. Whatever you like. These are my favorite pencils, you guys know that. No matter how many I've tried now, I still choose these pencils over the rest of my pencils. So I'm just going back in again with my dark indigo. I like how my other two bees turned out. We'll have to see how it works for this particular one, because I'm doing it for a Hawaii color. Things could go wrong. Now I'm going in again with my warm gray. This is the first color we used, just to sort of blend a few of those strokes together, but also to just mainly go over this light areas just for the highlights. Yeah. All right. And that is how I do the black segments. And if you just want to deepen up the black, now you can use a little bit of black. You don't have to go over everything, but maybe in the darkest areas, and just few strokes randomly. All right. So that it doesn't flatten out the color, that the depth of color we've just applied. Yeah. But you're just darkening up the black. All right. Just random. There we go. All right, that's how I do my black segments. Now let's go on to the yellow segments. Again, I'm going to use a base. I'm just checking that you guys I'm still recording. All right, so again, I'm going to use a base. Now I am going to try and make my wings look a little bit more transparent. I'm not very good with that technique yet, but I am going to try. But for now, I'm ignoring the wings until the end of my bee. All right, so I'm just good. Even with the black, I just stayed outside the wing area. I'm not going over the wings yet. Just laying down a warm gray one base again, covering up the whites of the paper in the direction of the lines that Joseph Catimbang has put down as a guide for where your or which direction the fuzz on the bee is going. All right, now because we're doing the yellow section, I'm not going to be putting blue. I am going in with the yellow, cadmium yellow, very, very bright yellow, but I'm just, again, very light pressure. Because I'm putting so many layers, it's better to work with light pressure to begin with until the end, because you want to put loads of layers of strokes to create your fur effect. So I'm just laying down a base, light pressure, so back and forth motion again, and then I'm just going to put in some strokes again, trying to put it in the direction of the fur as much as possible. Yeah. Sometimes the fur changes direction. It's quite hard, actually. I find fur and insects and making things look realistic quite hard, but I enjoy trying. But this is quite a simple way that I do it, so hopefully it'll help you guys if you are doing any bee pages this summer. Now I'm going in with my dark Naples ochre, so this is now to put in the darker areas on the yellow segments. And like I said, it will be under, for example, areas that have a shadow being cast, like the wing area, and on either side of the band of yellow. All right, keeping the center of the band a little bit lighter. So I'm not going in with the dark Naples ochre right in the center. There will be a shadow cast by that foot. Shadow cast on this part of this band of yellow from the wing, and then You can put a bit more darker shadows sort of on either side of the body to make it look rounded. Yeah, so it would be sort of curving away. So say if the light was coming this way, it would be curving away from the light, so it would have a bit more of a shadow. So you can put some dark lines there, and then on the segment, edges of the segments, or the junction of this two colors, try not to bring in your blacks, but it's not too much of a problem, because you'll see what I'll do next. Okay, then I'm going to still deepen up the color. I'm going in with the terracotta now in the dark areas. So the wings, these are still first strokes, so just little flicks. I'm not a huge fan of flicking. I like shading and circular motions usually, but to create the effect we need, we're going to have to. So first strokes, little flicks, if I do it slower, yeah, in the areas that are darker. And once you start putting darker colors, sometimes you'll notice that maybe your highlight area is too light. So that's what I feel, whoops, on this section here. So I'm going to go in with my cadmium yellow, which was the lightest yellow I used, and just put in a few first strokes in those highlight areas. Okay, now I'm going to go in with a darker shade, a pencil, and I'm going in with brown, burnt sienna, but I'm going to use it very lightly. So very light hand, and in your darkest areas, so the areas that would have a bit of a shadow. So for example, under the wing, especially if your light source is coming from there, for example, the wing would cast a shadow. And I don't usually get stuck up too much about where my light source is coming from, more than looking at an object or an element and seeing what part of that element is sitting behind what part of it. So for example, the body is sitting behind the wing. So no matter where my light source is, I want to create that 3D effect. So I'm going to create a little bit of a shadow under that wing to help with making it look like the wing is in front of the body. Hopefully that makes sense. So it would look better if you're using light sources and trying to use it throughout your page to make sure that every shadow and every highlight is respecting the direction of the light source. But I don't do that. It's complicated. It takes a lot more time. All right. Shadow here. And that's it. I'm not really going to go into the areas on either side of the segment, like I said. Not with the burnt sienna, it's not necessary, okay? If you want to make it look like here, I've sort of gone over it a little bit in that section, but that's okay because of the wing and because of the leg, sort of. There was a very small section there, but you don't have to go over the entire junction with the burnt sienna, all right? And that's the yellow section done. Now, what I like doing at this stage is then trying to make my segments sort of blend into each other, because right now it looks too, even the way Joseph Catimbang has drawn them, you can see that there's proper segments, but I want to make them look like they're blending into each other, because in reality, in nature, you would see that the fur sort of, you see the segments, yes, but you sort of see them blending in. So what I'm going to do is use a dark sepia, but very lightly, and I'm going to sort of, at the junctions of the black and yellow segments, just do strokes, a bit of shading you can if you want, very, very lightly. You don't want your yellow to look dirty. And I'm sort of going to bring in the strokes into the yellow. I've used a dark sepia because I don't want to use black, it's too dark. I don't want to create the same depth of the black that we created with the walnut brown and the dark indigo, because in these at the junction, you have some yellow and some black that would sort of overlap each other. So it wouldn't be as dark as the black segment, and it wouldn't be as bright as the yellow. So using a dark sepia, which is sort of a very dark brown, grayish brown, I don't know, you're just going to sort of put a few strokes in to make it look like a nice transition. Yeah, and you're just going over that line art that Joseph Catimbang had drawn for separating the segments. You don't need to cover it up necessarily. If you wanted to, you could, but it works absolutely fine with that because it's such a dark color. You can do it. So can you see how much nicer that looks than here, where it's such a sharp change in the yellow and black? So let's do it here. Wait, I don't think I have enough terracotta here. I'm just going to put in a bit more. Okay. And you can put strokes into the black and strokes into the yellow, but separate them a little bit. I think that's what I'm doing. Sometimes you do things without really thinking, so it's hard to get it across when you're trying to explain what you're doing. I'm still going sort of in the direction of the fur that Joseph Catimbang has drawn. And I'm trying to blend in the two sections. And you're separating them. You're not making them all right next, close to each other, because you want to see some of the yellow strokes look like they're going into the black, yeah? Okay, I think that's fine. What do you guys think? How does that look? It looks better, doesn't it, when you create that blend? Again, very, very light. You don't want to press hard into your yellow. Doing the same thing here. So I do that for each junction of black to yellow. I'll do the whole bee for you guys, but I might put the other bits of it to music, the other bits of yellow and black, so that it's not too repetitive for you. It's a bit quicker and we can get to the rest of it. There we go. How does that look? Let me see on screen. That does look better. You see how it's sort of blending in? It makes it look a little bit more realistic rather than just sharp changes in the black and yellow. Yeah, so that's what I like to do. So those are the colors I use for my yellow section. Those are the colors I use to make my black. You can always, at this point, if you still want to darken up your black areas, you can go in and just put some random strokes of black now. Again, not into the yellow with the black. There we go. And that is how I'm going to do the rest of the body. So let me put the rest to music. I'm going to do exactly the same for the yellows, the blacks, and the junction between the yellow and the black. And I'll be right back. Okay guys, so hopefully that looks good to you guys. I really like how that's turned out. And now one important thing is the eye. It's already black, but printed black is never usually black enough. So I like to just go over the eyes of any animal, any insects, humans, portraits, whatever it is. It's nice to go over it, okay, to make it more intense black. And then you can always obviously go over with a paint pen or a gel pen. You could have colored over that, but I didn't feel the need to. But you can just go over that and create your glossy eye so it doesn't look like a dead eye. All right, so that's the bee. Now let's do the legs and the antenna, and then we'll come and do the wing. Okay, so for the legs, they're going to be black, and I used exactly the same colors as I've used for my black part of my bee, in exactly the same way. So it's pretty simple actually. So I'm just going to base, maybe I'll just show you two and I'll do the rest, and the antenna will be exactly the same, or maybe let me do a leg and an antenna. All right, so base it with the warm gray. Again, I'm just creating my own black rather than just going in with the flat black. So base it with the sky blue, very light-handed all over, covering up the whites of the paper. Obviously, I'm just using pencil, but if you want to be quicker, you could obviously use, you know, bases with markers, water-based or alcohol markers. You can use soft pastels, pan pastels. I think I've done a video in a Kirby Rosanne's book on a bee again on how I use soft pastels for basing and then go over with the pencils, right? If I remember, I'll put it in the description box below. It's quite an old video, I think, now. But yeah, I'll try and remember. Now I'm just going to go in with my walnut brown, leave a bit of a highlight area, create the highlight area where you want it to be. So for the legs, for the antenna, I just kept it at the top there. It was quite a small element. For the legs, I'm going to make it in the middle of the leg as a highlight area, and follow the art, the line art, to sort of create my shadow areas where it's needed to make it, the limb, look segmented. All right, so I've just literally laid down my walnut brown, left a bit of a highlight so that it's easier to deal with. You can always bring back your highlights with paint pen work and things like that, but it's always, if you're able to maintain your highlight, it's always easiest to maintain it when you're putting down your color. All right, I'm going in with my dark indigo to create our black. Not a flat black, a little bit more interest to the black. Just over the walnut brown. All right, and then you can just go over a little bit. I think my highlight area is too large, so just a bit, very lightly over the highlight areas. Then I'm going in with my warm gray to emphasize my highlight areas, just blend out those bits. And then I'm going to use a black just to, sorry, I forgot my highlight here. I'm going to use a black to deepen up the dark areas, but it's not a flat black, which is what's good. I know there's a lot of layering. This is probably why it takes me so long to color. People always ask me, why do you think you're slow? Why do you think it takes you a while to finish a page? I think it's because I like layering. I like the technique of layering to create my depth to my illustrations, and that's probably why it takes me so long to color each page I do. There we go. So That's what I'm going to do with the rest of the legs and the antenna, I think that's what it's called. And then I'll be back to do the wings with you guys. But that's the main part of it. Wings you can always change up and do your own way, but I'll show you how I'm doing it on this particular page. But that's the main part of how I'm coloring my bees at the moment. When I'm trying to make them look realistic. Obviously, if I was doing it more cartoony and I wouldn't put as much effort into doing all the first strokes and the blending and trying to sort of get each segment to blend out together, I wouldn't put that much effort. But on this particular page, or for any pages that call for a little bit more of a realistic effect, this is how I like to do my bees. All right, let me go do those bits off screen and I'll be back to do the wings. Okay, so there's the beautiful bee. Hopefully you guys found these instructions quite easy. I've actually done it quite fast because I did the other two bees already, so I sort of knew what I was doing, but hopefully it was clear enough. Like I said, the main thing is just making sure everything blends. You can see some first strokes to make it look fuzzy. You can actually go in, and I don't think I don't know yet, but what you might want to do just to make it look a little bit more fuzzy is go in with a paint pen and at the edges, just go over the line art with a few strokes of like a yellow that sort of matches up here, and a maybe a dark gray that matches up here, and then you can sort of create that fuzziness around the bee as well, rather than the solid line art that's there. It will help make it look even more fuzzy, and you can also put a few strokes here and there on the rest of the fur as well. Or if you don't have different colors of paint pens, then you can always use just a white and then color over with one of the yellows we've used. So maybe like on the yellow section, use a white paint pen, create first strokes to cover up that, you know, solid line, black line that's been drawn by the artist. Then use the dark Naples ochre to go over the white paint pen so it doesn't look too white, and it'll help with making it look even more fuzzy. Same here, go over with the white just around the edges, and then go over with maybe you can go over with maybe the black just to give the little line, or the dark sepia to give the sort of little fur effect on the edges of the bee as well. All right, so hopefully that gives you some idea. I don't know if I'm going to do it for this page yet. I like to keep my paint pen work usually right to the end of the page. All right, now let's do the wings. So for the wings, for anything transparent, I think I've mentioned this before, so like for bottles, for example, I like to lay down a little bit of white in certain areas to help sort of create a resist for the other pencils so that they do not come down as dark, and it helps with the transparent look. That's what I feel. And so in certain areas, I'm just going to put down a little bit of white, not everywhere, just to sort of, and I'm putting quite medium pressure so that it does create a bit of a resist to the rest of the colors I'm going to place on top. All right, so that the colors that I'm using are not as vibrant or as dark, because we want to try and create the effect of making the wings look transparent. Now, I'm not very good at this still, but this is how I've done it for this page, so I'm just going to sort of share it with you. I'm going to use the warm gray again, just to now lay down a very light layer base on the wings. You can not really see it, but it sort of takes that little bit of the white, the edge of the whites of the paper, ever so slightly. All right. All right, then I'm going to use a sky blue. Now this is just to create the effect that obviously wings sort of pick up colors from around it, and if it's transparent wings, it will show through. So when I was doing the clouds here, I did pull in the color a little bit into over the wings because I wanted to create that effect that I could see some of the clouds through. But we need to create a little bit of color to the wings to make it look like there is a wing there, basically. So there is an object there, not just the background that you can see. So I'm just very lightly putting in sky blue, sort of at the tips of the wing. And you can put it randomly, maybe at the borders, sort of behind the body, might create a shadow. So just sort of randomly to give a bit of color to the wing. All right. Now, again, I'll put it at the tips of the wings. It's like as if the tips are a little bit thicker than the center of the wing, so you've got a bit more color to them. So very, very lightly, not putting much pressure at all, because they're supposed to be transparent wings. Okay, we can put a little bit here because again, could be a bit thicker at the base of the wing where it attaches to the body, and maybe behind this wing a little bit to try and help create a slight bit of dimension, 3D effect. Okay, all right, I've done it very lightly here. I can just go over a bit more. Okay, all right, that's it for now. Then I'm going to go in with a bit of dark indigo, again very lightly over the sky blue, mainly the edges. I'm going to use white over the top of this. Okay, a bit here behind the body of the bee. I'm not very good at light pressure. Which is why I never do things like a bouquet background, because you need to do it very lightly to create a blurry effect, and I don't have the patience for light layers basically. All right, a little bit here. Not too much. We don't want the wings to look blue. We're just creating a little bit of color. Okay. All right, now to help with the transparency, well, obviously I've already done the areas, so I put some blue there, sorry. I've obviously done the areas where I did the clouds. I sort of pulled the color in already into those wings, so you can sort of see the hints of the peachy pinks in the wings, so that's perfect. Now here we don't have any shades of the bee, and so we need to put in a little bit of the shades that are on the bee onto this particular wing here, up until sort of where the body ends, to sort of help with that effect of this wing being transparent. So in the areas where we have, I'm going in with my dark Naples ochre. I don't want a very bright color, and it has to be very light. It cannot, because you're looking at the body through the wings, you won't be able to see the whole outline or perfect outline of the bee, and you won't be able to see the perfect segments either. You just want to sort of give the idea that those colors are there. So sort of look at where your bands are and lay down very light color again in those particular areas. So just a little bit there. We would have a little bit here maybe. We can see whether we need more. So where would my body end? Maybe there. So let's put a bit of yellow here. So haven't really done the whole segment. Yeah, all right. All right, very lightly, but I'm going to go in with my burnt sienna as well, because of the sort of shadows in those areas. So for example, here we've sort of got the edge of the body, which we've sort of said that is going to be a bit darker underneath. So very lightly again in that area, just lay down a little bit of the burnt sienna. At the transition of the two segments, we're going to have a bit of a darker shade, yeah, at the edge of the body. If it's too brown, you can go over with your yellow again, but Okay, and that just sort of helps with making that look transparent, doesn't it? You can sort of see that segment there. And then we need to put in a little bit hints of the black, but we can't go in with black. So what I have done on this particular page to try and help with this effect is go over those areas which might have the black band with a bit of dark indigo. Yeah, just a little bit. Maybe the edge of the bee, if you put some color there, it's a bit better. Just sort of figure out where you think the edge of the bee will be if the artist hasn't drawn it. Some artists actually draw in the lines, but just, there we go. Yeah, and you can sort of see that it does look transparent. Now, what I did, because I don't have patience to do such light coloring, I then go in, I make sure with my white, I just make sure it's clean, just wipe it on a piece of tissue, make sure that the pencil is clean, and I'm literally just going to burnish everything, smooth it all out. All of it. So I'm going over these areas as well, just burnish it out, make it look smooth. You could do it with your pencil and just keep going over the spot, very light pressure to make sure it's a smooth and not a textured finish. But I don't, as it is, it takes me long to do a page, so I'm going to not do it that way. I'm just going to use my white and smooth out all those the strokes of the pencil. Okay, there we go. Does that look quite transparent? I think so, especially when we put in a little bit of that bee there. It makes it look transparent, and that's what I do. Now, it's entirely your choice what you do next with the wings. On this particular page, I'm just going to see I'm in view. I have decided to sort of just keep the segments of the wings. I don't know why. Usually I just go over with the whites, but I wanted to see how it would look, and I quite like it. So usually I would go over each segment with a white paint pen, but I decided, or a white gel pen, but I decided in this particular page to keep the segments there and just outline the white, the outline of the wing. All right. But I did, because I've obviously gone over with the white pencil, it looks a bit lighter, and I just wanted it to stand out a bit more. So I'll do a very small bit because it takes me long, because obviously I have to make sure my hand is steady. I'm just going to get my pencils to have a sharp point. I have to make sure my hands are very steady when I'm doing these lines, so they don't turn out too thick. So take your time when you do this. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my walnut brown and my dark indigo. And all I'm going to do is very lightly, again, a light hand, just draw in the lines, just so they don't look as faded. Or you could leave it with just the dark indigo as well, but I decided to make it look like the black we created ourselves. But yeah, if you prefer a white wing completely, this part that I've drawn in, you can do it with a white paint pen. I'm going to go in with my dark indigo now. Trying to be very careful. Even if you did it with the white paint pen or gel pen, you have to try and be very careful you don't thicken up the lines, otherwise the wings will not look as delicate with thick lines, whether it's whited out thick lines or whether it's with color. All right, so that's what I'm doing for these particular wings. And then I'm just going to use a white gel pen, if it works, to white out always rest your hand when you're doing things like this so that they stay steady, you know. Okay, and that's my wing, and so that's how I'll do the rest of the wings, and that will be my bee finished. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll zoom out so you can see all my bees now. There we go. I know the wings are not finished yet for that one, but that's okay. I'll finish it before I take my photo for the thumbnail of the video. But I hope you guys enjoyed that. It's such a simple way of doing a slightly more realistic bee. It's not super realistic, but it gives you that effect if you are trying to go for a bit of a realistic bee. So I hope you guys really enjoyed it. And for those of you who might be following the color along, hopefully you found this video a bit more useful, because yeah, my color alongs are so long that it's hard to put as much time into every single element on a page, and I liked how my bees looked, so I decided to share it with you guys in case you guys wanted to try it out. Alright guys, I'll see you on my next video. Hopefully I finish this page soon now. I've done all the most challenging bits like the honeycomb and the honey, which I wasn't so sure about how to color, and the bees. So the rest should not be as challenging, other than I don't know what color to go for the pot. So if you guys have any ideas, let me know, but I'm still thinking about the color of the pot, and then hopefully it shouldn't take too long. All right guys, I'll leave you to it, and I'll be back with you guys again soon. So until the next video, take care, thank you for watching as always, and see you next time. Bye bye.